Welcome back to the Realtone Podcast. I'm your host, Antonio Alcazar. And today I'm with... Oh, shit, I did this again. I forgot to ask you what name you wanted to use.
Oh, no. Are we going by aliases?
No, so I didn't use it the first time, but she wanted... I just had something, that I was going to call her. It turns out you don't really say another human being's name very often in a conversation, so it's not super needed, but...
Yeah.
But it's also, when I'm introducing somebody, it's so funny to be like... I'm here with nobody, so make up a name.
Hernando. Sure.
I'm here with Hernando. That'll be the only time you hear me say anything. So welcome to the Realtone Podcast.
Thank you.
For those of you who don't know what you're listening to, this is a podcast where I take a human being in the world that I know generally, hopefully sometimes people that I don't know, and I talk to them about their specific ideas that are generally referred to as political, and ideas that are referred to as spiritual. And the reason for that is that those are the things that generally people don't like to talk about, and it's really hard to get any kind of non-performative or actually honest answers from people. So this podcast is taking human beings out in the world, giving them some anonymity, and then kind of just going through what they think so that everybody has a better understanding of what people actually think around them. So the way that this works is first we're going to talk about what my guest thinks, and then we're going to talk about just kind of how we got to start thinking of these things, and then lastly, if there's any points where I want to explore some things that he said in more specificity, we'll just go back. So, Hernando, let's talk.
Yep.
We're going to start politics, okay?
I would love to talk politics with you.
Okay, so how do you feel about... We're just going to go down the list, okay? And I'll just ask you to elaborate how you feel on certain things, okay?
Sure.
And then you can go as in-depth as you want. So let's start with guns.
How do I feel about guns? I think they're silly.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you mean?
They've been so blown out of proportion about what is needed by a standard citizen's right to carry, and they are given so much priority, and people just care about them a lot more than they should, and there are other things that need more attention, and they just don't because gun control, I guess. Well, not gun control, but right to carry.
Sure, right to carry, the Second Amendment.
Second Amendment, which I think is out of date.
So you're talking there are things that we should be paying attention more. If I'm understanding, you're saying that your Second Amendment right shouldn't supersede safety in schools, for instance.
Yeah, I think it's ridiculous that our children are in danger, and we're not willing to crack down on that.
How would you crack down on that? And we'll explore this more at the end, or in the third act. But real loosely, ideally, what's a situation like that look for you? Do people even get guns at all?
I think it's harder to control the problem where it's trickling down into a school child's hands, and they do what they do from there. But as far as less accessibility for guns, I think we just need more gun control.
Sure.
We see it in other countries. There's just a longer application process, a longer screening process, and we just don't have that.
So it's just too accessible right now.
It's too accessible.
Okay. How do you feel about the separation between church and state? What role should religion have in our politics?
In our politics, I don't think it should have a very minimal role.
Yeah, but some role?
I don't want to completely toss out the window where, maybe you have somebody in a political position who is, making a speech about, I know it to be true in my heart that God would want me to do this.
Okay.
On a personal level, I don't think the church should have any influence over state or government.
I see what you're saying. How about LGBTQ rights?
Yes.
Yeah, right?
Yes.
So, should people who aren't cis be able to get married?
Yes, they should.
What? That's weird. Why would you say that?
My sister is married to her girlfriend.
That's so crazy, man.
Or now wife.
I thought that only a few people had that right.
Only a few, yeah. I mean, it's rough out here.
Sure.
For people. Right. I worry about them sometimes.
Yeah, okay. So gay marriage, totally cool. All of that kind of stuff.
Yes.
There should be protections for the entire community of LGBT people.
Yes, there absolutely should be.
Okay. So it sounds like you're skewing pretty left on a lot of these things, man.
I do skew left, but I hate the two-party system.
Sure, okay.
so I don't like saying it.
Yeah, so that's actually the point. Like, that's the point of this conversation. I want to see, what do you call yourself? Do you have a word for yourself?
In general conversation, I call myself left.
So you refer to yourself as left?
Left, yes, because it's the shortest word.
Sure.
And people just get it.
Do you consider yourself left of center, which is a different term? That's just like...
Yeah, I know what that means. I guess I consider what is the public opinion of left right now. I kind of am in there, so I guess it's left of center.
Okay. You don't consider yourself far left?
No.
Oh.
I don't consider myself an extreme of any sort.
Sure, okay.
Except for extremely cool.
Okay, let's see here. How do you feel about the death penalty?
I touched on it a little bit earlier. I don't like that being the first resort. Or I guess it's not even the first resort, but I don't know. It doesn't feel right to me.
Sure.
I've been very influenced by many, like, I guess, medias in the past, so it's like, killing is never the option.
Okay. Yeah.
But I think that way. I don't think it's really obviously the humane way to go, I guess.
Sure. Okay.
Especially when we have systems in place that they can just serve their time.
All right. How do you feel about free speech?
I mean, I think it should be there. I think people have twisted it into something that works to their own means.
Do you think that there should be some kind of limits on free speech?
I mean, it depends on where we are, I guess. Like, talking in, like, a protest setting or a social media setting or, like, a casual conversation setting. Like,
Sure.
It all varies.
Are there any things that flat out should be enforced as far as, like, public speaking? Like, can I go out in the middle of a city and just start screwing racist profanities at everybody? That should be protected?
I don't think that should be protected. I don't think we should hold laws that protect hate.
Oh, okay. So hate speech.
Yeah, we don't want hate speech. We don't want Nazi propaganda.
Yeah.
We should be putting a stop to that, not letting it happen. The difference of, like, yeah, people can speak their mind, but then when you're aligning your mindset onto a faction that was declared an enemy of the world,
Sure.
you're just proudly declaring that as if that's something that's okay, and it's like, no.
You're pretty much saying, hey, I'm the enemy of the world.
You're declaring yourself the bad guy. It's not perspective. It's they're the bad guys.
Let's see here. How do you feel about drugs?
How do I feel about drugs?
Yeah.
Not into them.
Okay. You think they should be controlled or what?
I think they should be controlled to an extent, sure, yeah.
Really?
I think we should more focus on helping addicts than we should be focusing on a war on drugs.
Okay. So the idea that rehabilitation should be the issue, not so much criminalization.
Yeah.
Do you feel
criminals, and we know that the criminal system, our, like, jail system is completely corrupt, so.
Doesn't super work the way that we wished it would. But do you feel like something like we'll talk about cannabis specifically. Do you think that cannabis should be decriminalized or be able to be used recreationally?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I think we should decriminalize it. I don't think we should start, like, make it legal, but don't do the whole dispensary business. Keep the system as it is now. It gets too messy.
Sure.
It's cheaper now.
Okay. So you don't like the accessibility that dispensaries created?
It's not the accessibility, it's just the state regulation on it. They slap a bunch of taxes on it. They want to make money off of it. That's the only reason that they're making it legal. They don't care about whether or not it decriminalizes people.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And then, like, it gets too expensive, and then people just go to the streets anyways to get their stuff.
Yeah.
It's cheaper.
So I was in decriminalized state a couple of weeks ago, and it was cheap as shit out there. Like, I don't smoke.
At the dispensaries?
Yeah, at the dispensary. It was, like, wildly cheap. Some of the people that I was with wanted to stop by there, and I was happy to because I'd never been inside of one, and when I was younger, I always wanted to. And I went in there, and I was blown away.
Really?
Yeah.
Maybe I'm misinformed. I've never been to a legal dispensary in the U.S.
I couldn't believe how cheap it was.
Huh.
It made me laugh. I laughed out loud.
I went to one in Toronto when I visited Canada.
Yeah.
But that's the only time I've been into a dispensary, so I'm not really sure about the prices. But
Sure.
I guess I go off of rumors, and I suppose
Sure.
perhaps I'm misinformed.
Okay. How do you feel about privacy? Do you think that there should be some reasonable expectation of privacy, or have we given that up?
I think we've certainly given some leeway to it, but there's hard lines that we haven't crossed.
Do you think that the government should be able to cross those if they're trying to protect the citizenry, or do you think that there are some lines you just cannot cross?
In that respect, yeah, I don't think that's a line you can cross.
Oh, really?
It wouldn't receive good attention, that's for sure.
Sure. You think that that base point there is some line you shouldn't cross?
Yeah, I mean, once you close the door and you're in your own house, you should have an effective privacy, like a certain amount.
Okay. How do you feel about net neutrality? I bet I know how you feel about net neutrality.
Keep net neutrality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The internet should be neutral.
The internet should be neutral. We have so much corruption and everything already. Please keep it out of that. It's our one beacon.
The minimum wage?
Increase it. I think inflation is nonsense.
Really?
I do.
Wait, but inflation just like that. That's like gravity. Like you can't stop inflation.
We make the rules. It's our money.
Oh yeah, but like, what are you going to take money out of the?
Just make more. I get
that's what creates inflation.
Inflation, but it's nonsense.
Sure. Okay.
We set the value.
Oh, I see. Okay, but as far as the minimum wage, it should just increase with inflation. You're saying?
I mean, inflation is just a side effect, but people need more to live by.
Sure.
It's not working.
How do you feel about wealth caps?
Wealth caps. Explain.
Like, do you think that people shouldn't be able to make after like a certain amount of money after a certain amount, or can they make as much money as they want?
Oh, I think that goes against the spirit of America.
Okay.
I mean that in a very non-serious way.
Okay.
But,
okay.
No, I don't think there should be a cap, but I think we should be properly regulating and taxing it.
So, as far as like social welfare programs, how do you feel about those?
Keeping them?
Keeping them or enforcing them, making them stronger? Do you think that the government should maintain an expectation of some kind of minimum quality of life, or do you think that that's fundamentally not the government's role, and it should just be capitalism out there?
I absolutely think they should do that, because if not, what else are they good for?
Oh, okay.
They run the whole, like, they're in charge. They need to make sure that their thing that they're in charge of is working properly.
Sure, and you think part of that is just making sure that people have a quality of life?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Some
people very disagree. You know, and I'm not saying I disagree. I'm just saying, you know, like that's why I'm asking for like the little bit of a specificity here, because some people think it is not the government's job to make sure that people have what they need.
Silly. I think that they're in a country, in any country, you're in a social contract, basically. You pay your taxes, the government takes care of you to a certain extent. And if one way isn't getting and the other way is only receiving, then something's out of balance.
Sure. Okay. So how do you feel about immigration?
I have strong positive views about immigration.
Yeah?
Yes.
You think then immigrants should be allowed to come here?
Yes, I do. I don't know why they would want to. They should.
I ask myself this question a lot.
I know we're kind of in the way, but like keep going north.
Yeah. Yeah, right. I hear it's cold.
It is cold.
It can't be
cold here too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about borders? Do you think that nations should have sovereignty in some way?
No, I think we should have open borders. Open
borders, but still borders. Like,
yeah.
There should be a difference between Mexico and the United States.
Yes, there should be a difference.
Okay.
Otherwise, what's the point?
But come over freely. You don't even have to check any papers.
Check papers. Make sure you're a person. You're not, I don't know, background check or something, but...
So still immigration laws, just more relaxed than they are right now.
Yeah.
I dig it. All right. So
I want it to be easier for people.
Sure, yeah. And that's specifically in reference to like the problems at the border that we're having right now with the
of course.
The immigrant caravans and all that.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so I've picked your brain a little bit on policy, and we didn't hit everything, but
key ideas.
I feel like I have a good picture of how you lean for some of these things. Some idea behind the specificity. Let's talk religion a little bit.
Okay.
Cool with that?
Sure. Do
you have a religious leaning? Do you have a word that you use to describe yourself spiritually?
I'm somewhere in between agnostic and the other A word that I'm blanking on right now.
Atheist?
Atheist, yeah.
Okay.
I haven't really bound myself to one, I guess, because it's like I don't believe in a God, but if I'm wrong, then I'm willing to accept that I'm wrong.
Okay. So you're not absolutely closed off to the idea that there might be some higher power.
If I die and I go to heaven or hell,
and
or
God's
I go
like,
to the pearly gates and they're like, no, you weren't good enough, then you're going to hell or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll be like, yeah, I guess. I was wrong.
Yeah.
You should have made more evidence about yourself.
Yeah. You'd be like, fine, but this is kind of on you.
It's kind of on you. And it's like, if I'm going to hell just for being an atheist, then wow, I don't want to go to heaven.
So you don't have any kind of structured idea as to a higher power? Do you believe in a soul?
Yeah, sure.
Really?
I like to believe in ghosts.
Oh, okay. All right.
Lingering souls, spirits, that kind of weird energy.
Yeah.
I think there's something going on in there. I can't explain it.
Okay. So you think that like...
And that's so contradictory, right?
A little bit. I'm good. We're going to explore that later.
The ghost thing is more for fun.
Okay. But also kind of for real?
Oh, yeah. Like, I I'll say yes, I believe in ghosts, but
So,
it's not.
so like, if I were to be like, let's go to a haunted house, you'd have some expectation that house is haunted in
I'd
some
be
way?
scared.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Me too. I don't like haunted
I don't
houses.
like being spooked.
Yeah, I don't
It's like,
either.
yeah, I believe that there could be something here.
Do you watch scary movies?
Yes, now.
Really?
Oh, yeah, as a child, I hated them.
I don't watch scary movies. As a child, I watched them and hated them. As an adult, I just straight up refuse. Because I also believe in ghosts, and it scares me.
It's scary.
Yeah, I don't
it's
like that.
yeah, there could be... What if I was possessed by a demon?
No, I don't even want to
Exactly.
play around with that. The demon possession movies are my least favorite.
Oh, they're
'cause-
scary.
Yeah, I don't like that at
They
all.
always end with like a woman with a true blood-curdling scream, and
Yeah.
I'm like, that makes me very
And their
uneasy.
bodies all contorted and
Uh-huh.
stuff. I don't like
Like,
it.
that's real suffering, and I hate that.
Have you ever been a religious person? Have you ever like looked into any kind of religious ideas?
The only one that I've had a passing interest in is Buddhism,
Oh, cool.
but only to a curiosity extent. Nothing.
How do you feel about life after death? Do you have any idea?
I have no idea.
Yeah,
I'm kind of just along for the ride and
Really?
see what happens.
and like when right before the moment happens, you're like kind of excited.
I'm kind of excited because you get to live a whole life, right? And then you get to see what happens.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, of course. That's a really optimistic way of looking at it.
I have an optimistic way of looking at a lot of things.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about your upbringing. Did you have a real liberal kind of upbringing? Because you skew pretty left on a lot of the things that you think. Is that kind of the household that you were brought up in?
My household was weird. I come from a divorced family, so I kind of have two different influences, I guess. When I was growing up, I lived mostly with my mom. My mom was very left-leaning, and then I would go and visit my dad, who is very right-leaning.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
So you had influences on both sides?
Yeah, but I don't think a lot of the ones from my dad's side didn't really stick.
Sure. I don't know. Like, that's not surprising to me that you would just kind of pick one. I find that more centrist people generally come from extreme households. And when things are more balanced, there's usually like a pick for some reason. Did you notice that you had political leanings when you were younger, or did that come when you were in adulthood?
When I was younger, like how young? Just as a child, a wee lad?
Yeah, so you remember the Obama presidency, right?
Yes, I voted for that.
And did you vote on the first
second
one?
term.
You voted for second term?
Yeah, 2012.
Do you remember the 2008 election?
I remember it.
Did you want Obama to win in the 2008 election? You remember?
God, I was a freshman, probably.
So at that point, it didn't even really matter.
I mean, yeah, my high school days were a lot of nothing matters, but
Sure.
yeah,
So,
I think I was probably down for Obama.
but real political give a shit didn't start until you were a little bit older then.
Yeah, not till I was probably out of high school.
Really?
Then it became a responsibility of mine.
Really? Is that how you saw it when you were getting out of high school? Like suddenly it was just on you to perpetuate the way that the country is run?
No, I didn't think of it like that.
How did-
I have a responsibility to vote, and I should
Educate yourself somehow?
yeah, a little enough to find which candidate aligns with my beliefs.
So, like, to that specifically, right? Did you not care then until it was just your responsibility to be a part of it?
Yeah, for the most part, definitely. I don't recall having much interest in politics.
Did you go to a high school that was culturally homogenous, or did you go to a diverse high school?
I went to a white suburb high school
Okay, so
out in Waukesha,
really, what
Yeah.
high school did you go to?
Sussex, Hamilton High School.
Okay, you said Waukesha. I was just like, I went to high school in Waukesha, but I went to North High School.
North.
Well, I only went to North for a year, and then I went to Watertown High School, which is out in the middle of nowhere.
yeah, that's somewhere else.
Yeah, that is a tiny town.
I bet.
In the middle of nowhere. So do you think that maybe that played a part in why it didn't really matter to you, politics were?
Oh yeah, nothing happened in Sussex.
Yeah,
I wasn't in a position where I felt like politics would affect my life.
sure. And so it just didn't come up.
Yeah.
What made you feel like it was part of your responsibility to educate yourself once you were able to vote? I mean, I agree, but like that's not usually what you hear is there was some reason to think politically and then you just became political organically, or you never gave a shit. But you didn't have any leaning, and then at some point you were just like, well, it's my responsibility to be educated. Where did that come from?
Let me think about that. If I had to, like after high school, I went through some rough patches. I went to college. I flunked out of college. Lived with my parents again. Lived on the couch for a while. Nothing too harsh, but and then I ended up landing in Milwaukee, and I don't know. I don't live in the nicer parts of Milwaukee.
Sure.
Like I used to live in a nicer-ish, but I just like to sit outside and like watch my neighbors and just take in my surroundings. It's like, yeah, these are people who are, I would assume, much more affected by politics than I am.
Sure.
And I think I feel more of a responsibility to just the people around me to like try and have an impact than to myself.
Because you've always been fine.
I've always been fine.
Yeah.
Like I take a lot of things in stride.
Does that also play into? Did you grow up either with your dad or your mom in a religious household?
When I was very young, both my dad and my mom's side were Lutheran. I would go occasionally on Sundays with my mom's side, and I got communionized, whatever that is. And on my dad's side, we'd go every Sunday. Every time I'd go there, every other Sunday.
So somewhat religious for sure.
Yeah, and I was even an altar boy for a bit, but I was so bored all the time at church.
It never you never got it.
No, I never got it, and I think my ADHD played into a part of that. I just couldn't focus on that kind of stuff. So
with your ADHD, do you feel like you can focus on some things? I'm not 100% sure how that works, but there's some focus there, right?
Yeah, you can focus. It's hard though. It's like getting through a barrier and like trying to buckle down and get rid of all the distractions and to be like, okay, I gotta.
But then once you focus, you're like in it.
I can get in it. Yeah, I'm sure it's not the same for everyone.
Do you focus on things that you get into? Like if you like something, can you do it for a long time without any kind of feeling like you're losing focus?
No, generally. I'll get into a game and then like a couple months in, I'm like, I'm kind of over it.
Months
though.
are
that's the longest.
So like, but like, let's say there's a really good game for a couple of weeks. That's it, right?
Yeah, for a couple of weeks, that's it.
But when you were growing up and you were in these like religious environments, there was never a point where you were just like, this is my shit. Like I want to learn as much as I can about this.
Oh no, Bionicles.
Yeah,
really into Bionicles.
Yeah,
Bionicles, Transformers. I was really into.
So you were really into Bionicles.
Yeah, I had the Lego magazine and subscription, and for a while with the subscriptions, you would get the Bionicle comic books. So like I was like into the story. I was like into the lore for a while.
So that lore you were into, Genesis lore, probably not so much. Yeah,
no, because these are cool robots.
Okay, so it sounds like your childhood was pretty easy breezy. There wasn't really a need for politics. There wasn't a need for God.
No.
Huh. And then
I'm very fortunate.
Why, when you got older, did you think that Buddhism was like there was some kind of curiosity there?
I just think it's neat.
Neat how?
Like they don't, as far as my understanding, they don't consider Buddha like a god. It's just like a man of importance.
Sure.
Who like has a lot to teach.
Yeah.
And they've got the whole like reincarnation stuff going on, and I really don't know much more than the surface level stuff.
Sure.
I just think it's interesting.
Yeah.
Also, I think Simpsons influenced me a little bit.
How?
Lisa becomes a Buddhist.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I remember seeing that young, and I was like, oh, that's kind of neat.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's funny.
She goes out the window and goes, I'm a Buddhist.
Oh, I feel like actually now you saying that, I do vaguely remember that happening at some point.
Yeah.
But that was a long time ago, though.
It was a long time ago. We used to watch Simpsons a lot.
So there is some spiritual curiosity that you have then.
Yeah.
I think some of that stuff seems cool.
Yeah, I think they're interesting. I just don't think there's something I would want to believe in myself. But I also, I like seeing how other people view the world.
But fundamentally, you think that there's a chance that people are just kind of deluding themselves?
Well, I wouldn't put it that way. I think everyone has freedom to believe however they want to believe, and that the way I think isn't right necessarily.
Sure, but I guess what I'm saying is, if you're giving credence to the things that people are thinking, right, insofar as they believe their own truths and those are true to them, you denying that truth in yourself is kind of like saying, subjectively, whatever there might be true for you, but objectively, that's not happening.
That's such a mean way to put it.
I'm not trying to put it in a mean way. I'm just trying to get. So what I'm trying to do is get down to the way that you conceptualize reality, and I'm all for. So I feel like the thing that you're insisting on is religious respect and religious freedom. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying is, yes, but do you think that objectively this stuff is actually happening?
I guess not.
Yeah.
I put my faith in science.
Sure.
But I don't like that.
Yeah.
Phrasing, because sure. I don't like to put my opinion over other people's.
Yeah.
Because other people find comfort in their own truth.
And also, you're perfectly willing to accept that maybe you're wrong.
Yeah, I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could absolutely be wrong.
It's so funny to talk about that kind of stuff, because it really does feel, especially when you're coming from a position where you're trying to be respectful and sensitive to other people's beliefs, where you can't even necessarily say, well, I don't believe it, because it almost kind of feels mean to say that. But, I mean...
I don't think it's mean. You can say, well, yeah, I don't believe in that, but I respect that you do.
Sure. Yeah, and really it's just, like, I don't think that anybody would mistake you for telling them that they're wrong.
I hope not.
It's just...
I'm careful with my words.
Yeah, I just really want to know how it is that you perceive it. So for you, objectively, there's probably nothing happening really outside of... Or as far as structured, dogmatic religious beliefs. Like, there's no, like, gods and, like, real anthropomorphized non-physical energy kind of making decisions and creating things with purpose and stuff.
No, I don't think so.
You think maybe there's some spiritual energy, though, because of ghosts?
I think there's more than what we can see.
Sure.
Like with the human being, but I don't think there's a...
But with ghosts, then, afterlife.
Uh-huh.
And then maybe just like Earth, but more astral.
Yeah, I guess I don't think about often how it would be to be a ghost.
Sure.
I think they're just as lingering presences.
Okay. If I were to make any kind of examination on some of the things that you've said politically.
Okay.
Actually, more specifically, I wrote down a couple of things. Have you ever fired a gun before?
Not a real gun.
What do you mean not a real gun?
BB guns.
Okay. We should go shooting sometime.
Think so?
Yeah, well, not to convince you any way or another, but my position on guns generally changed a tremendous amount once I had fired a gun. And it wasn't even just necessarily firing a gun. It was more all that went into that entire event and like the precautions and the respect for it. It was a very different thing. But then also the actual, the explosion that happens in your hand. There was something very like, oh yeah, the thing that I thought was people should have one of these.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The power.
Yeah, well, but see, like, it's like the way that I've come to see it now is that it's a little bit like a martial art. Like, God, I hope a person never needs something like this, but man, are you going to be happy you have one if you ever do need it. There's honestly true violence out there. Yes. Real horrific monster shit. Yeah. And like, I'm not a strong guy, like I'm not one of those dudes who's ready to get into a fight, Like I'm a really non-confrontational person, especially when it comes to physical confrontation. And if I were to ever get assaulted by anybody, including and especially a bigger person, but anybody, even a little guy, I don't know how to defend myself. Just like, I probably get beat up real quick, and maybe not, like you defend yourself. You're a person, you're an animal, you're going to fucking do what you got to do. But things like martial arts and also having a weapon on you, both of those things end those situations right there. If you forget about guns, right? If you knew a martial art, especially something like BJJ, where that's like a real, actual, effective, scientifically proven thing that does help in a lot of situations. If you know how to do something like that and somebody attacks you, thank God you knew how to do it, because otherwise you might end up in the hospital with a broken jaw. There's potential for real, actual, like, medical problems if you don't know how to defend yourself. And that's, like, unfortunate that situations like that happen. And thankfully, I've never been in a situation like that. And I'm sure that the actual statistics skew is very, very low. But if you don't know how to fight and you end up in some kind of physical altercation when somebody's trying to really hurt you, you'll be glad that you knew how to do that. And I never considered guns like that. To me, guns were always just some big dick energy bullshit that people, for some reason, needed. But the moment I was firing a gun, and I was being taught by a person who like really respected the thing and really took it very seriously, I was just like, this is defense, man. Like, there is very little that exists on the planet. I felt like I was holding fucking Poseidon's trident. Like, I was like, this is like a mythological fucking tool.
Oh my gosh.
Like, but not to fetishize it, but to say there's such a drastic difference between regular life and then a gun in your hand. Like, that is like, there's such a wild canyon between what a human being is capable of and what a gun is capable of, that as far as defense goes is like a wall. Like, if you have a weapon like that, there's very little getting past that.
Do you think you could shoot someone?
I think that if I were, well, technically I could definitely shoot somebody. Like, the ability to point and fire now is a thing that I literally have been trained to do. Mm-hmm. But the question is like a moral one. Could you end somebody's life? I don't want to end anybody's life. And
you don't have to kill someone to shoot them.
Chances are you will. Like, you're aiming for center mass, and if you're shooting a 9mm, chances are you're gonna fucking kill that person. like maybe they get lucky and you don't kill them, but like, guns are fucking deadly, man. They really are. Like firing one of those things even one time, you'll get the sense that, Jesus, like, that will end a life, guaranteed. And like, I hope to God that I never get in a situation where I would have to do that. And actually, right now, I don't have a gun. I'm not legally allowed to own a gun. I won't own a gun unless I ever become a citizen of the country. And who knows if that'll ever happen. And so this is absolutely purely hypothetical for me. I can't own one. But if I did own one, and I was unfortunately one day in the situation of having to defend myself for somebody that was like really going to kill me, yeah, I could put my life over that person. Yeah, for sure. I could defend myself. And that's the harder one. The easier, low-hanging fruit for this question is, do you think you could defend your family? And without a doubt.
Sure.
You know, like, and I wouldn't say I have sympathy or empathy for stupid, ignorant people. I guarantee that's not what I'm saying. But I do have more of an empathetic frame of mind for the people who have guns, have always had guns, and see them as the ultimate defense for their family. I have some empathy for that idea because it really does make you feel safe. Absolutely. You know that in your waistband is a thing that can really help you out if things get at their absolute worst. And maybe we fetishize it. And honestly, maybe I'm romanticizing the American dream a little too heavy right now because generally speaking, I don't do something like that. This is the most conservative I lean, I think, is on gun control. And that's because I do believe in gun control. I think that we should control it. There should be a national registry. There should be all sorts of shit. But I do fundamentally think that it's very privileged that in this country you get to defend yourself with a weapon like that because you don't really get that in other countries.
Yeah, and I guess that brings up the topic of like, should we indulge in all the privileges that we have offered to us?
Yeah, how do you feel about privilege just generally? Because you've grown up with some privilege.
Oh, I've grown up with a lot of privilege. I'm a cis white male.
That is, I hear, a more privileged subset of the population.
It's the easiest route. You know?
Yeah, you're playing the game on easy mode.
And yeah, and it's not like I have a say in it.
Sure,
but,
of course, yeah.
I try not to abuse privileges, especially recently when the Black Lives Matters popped up again in June.
Yeah.
You know, that was a hot topic of debate, and I had to think about it sometimes. I shared a story on Facebook about just a time when my roommate had borrowed my car, and my car didn't have license plates on it.
I remember that, yeah.
Yeah. I was being lazy with my car. I didn't update my license plates. I was driving around some temporary ones. I live in a predominantly black area, and I saw like a bunch of other cars driving around the same way. I'm like, oh, that must be a common thing. And I was never bothered. I was never pulled over, and I did that for almost a year. And then my roommate, who is black, borrowed my car for one night because he was a delivery boy.
Sure.
And he got pulled over for the templates.
Just immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the one night.
Yeah.
And thank God nothing happened from it. He was able to explain the situation away, but like, wow.
How do you feel if somebody would tell you, yeah, but that might be a coincidence?
It could be a coincidence.
You think that there could be a coincidence?
It could be a coincidence, but God, that's a small window.
Yeah, for sure. After a year of not getting pulled
after
over.
a year of it.
Yeah.
And like, obviously they're trained to look for that stuff, you know?
Do you think that if an underrepresented or an oppressed people suddenly were given tremendous privilege, do you think that they should have the right to enjoy a privilege that you, for instance, have a discomfort enjoying, or do you think that there should just be no expectation of privilege ever for anyone?
I'm having a hard time visualizing an example of that.
So like what I'm saying is more to the point that you were just making right now. So you're saying that you try not to indulge in your privileges. Do you think that other people who haven't had those privileges, if they were given those privileges, should be able to indulge in them?
Yeah. If that's the route you want to take as a person, sure. If you want to, like, you know, all these things are available to you and you really want to, like, indulge it, I don't have any problem with that.
What do you think the problem is for indulging privilege in the situation that you're in?
It's the lack of sharing. Everyone doesn't get their chance to play right now.
Sure.
So I should cut down my play time, I suppose.
It's incredibly altruistic. I like that.
You don't like that?
I do like that.
Oh, okay.
Through talking to you, there's been just a couple of moments where I'm surprised, specifically because when you grow up in a situation, well, this is the expectation. When you grow up in a situation where you don't ever have to worry about these things, generally speaking, you don't.
Mm-hmm.
And you were in a situation, you grew up in a situation where you didn't have to, and you chose to, and it was just out of some fundamental human empathy that you had for the people around you, which is surprising.
I believe that everyone should have a good life.
Yeah. That's a very religious thing to think.
I suppose so.
Or spiritual, at least, you know.
As you described, I'm very fortunate in my life.
Sure.
You know, I haven't had a lot of tragedies to me.
Sure.
I haven't experienced discrimination just because the way the dice rolled when I was born. I've lived a very fortunate life.
Yeah.
And therefore I'm in a position where I can be more positive about the world. I can try to spread kindness rather than hate, because I don't have the anger. I don't have the
Sure.
resentment. So I think it's my duty as like a human being to try to spread as much positive emotions as I can.
Do you think that that's something that you kind of adopted in your later life, or was that something that your parents instilled, or did that come from, you know, like the moderate religious upbringing that you had?
It's the culmination of a lot of things. When I was younger, I was a lot more angry. I had some anger management issues, but
just like adolescent anger.
Adolescent anger, and younger than that too. As a child, I was a lot more outbursty as a child, and then when high school, I mellowed out.
Sure.
I would also say it's upbringing. You know, my mom is a very kind, loving woman who isn't for conflict in many ways, and I grew up primarily around her. And that's not to say my dad is a conflict-driven person. He's also a very kind man, a positive influence in my life as well. But I just spent more time with my mom, and my dad's and my mom's beliefs are a little different. So I would say my mom influenced me in that way. Like I said, I'm not trying to put one party out. I've also inherited things from my father, of course.
Sure. And then the only other place where I wanted to push back a little bit is when we were talking about free speech.
Okay.
And the need to regulate when people are abusing that. How do you feel there should be an objective method of regulating that? And what I mean is, like, I guess to put it more surface level, who gets to decide what is hate speech? That's something that you get pushback on the right a lot for that. The idea that if you start to limit hate speech, that at some point somebody's deciding what is hate speech, and at some point anybody can say anything is hate speech if they just don't like it.
Well, history is always written by the victors, right?
Do you think that that's a good thing?
No.
Because that would surprise me.
No, but that is the way that things work very
Sure.
often. As far as how they regulate it, who regulates it?
Yeah.
The UN?
The UN? And we just trust?
The people that are advocates for peace, I suppose.
Sure.
I don't know. We have people in history who are the enemy.
Yeah.
We've decided we've had wars over it. I think there should be some guidelines and be like, hey, the same viewpoints, the messages that they were trying to enforce and the beliefs they were trying to enforce shouldn't be a good public opinion that we should allow.
Sure. Those are enemy viewpoints.
Yeah, good and evil, I guess, but
Yeah.
there's just not much good to be found in the Nazi viewpoint, you know?
Sure. But in this case, we're talking Nazi specifically.
Yeah, I guess I defaulted to that because...
And I guess because we're talking about enemies of the state, we're also talking Confederate stuff, so anti-slavery stuff, racism. You ball into that idea?
Yeah, please don't be racist.
But what about, we've never had a war that was anti-women, you know? And I'm sure you're not okay with people going out and saying women suck.
Yeah, you're right.
That would still be hate speech.
Yeah, fuck it, I'll write all the rules.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Just put me in, coach, I'm ready.
I don't know, that's a hard topic. You
Yeah.
know, who does get to make the rules?
Yeah. You know, like earlier you said that you're not a super religious person because you kind of default to the fact that there's probably more truth to find in science, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there could be some scientific way of deciding what's better for everybody as far as what people are allowed to say or do?
No, I think it's a moral thing.
Oh.
There's people use science for their arguments for a lot of bad things.
Sure.
You know, there's the far right movement who claim that, like, scientifically, statistically, the whites are the superior race.
Sure.
So I think that can be abused.
Yeah.
But morals can be abused as well. But I guess I put more faith in that.
Sure.
But we just need a strong, positive leader to to enforce those morals instead of what we have.
So what you're saying is you're launching your bid for president of the United States.
I'm not old enough.
Yeah.
Maybe in 15 years.
All right. Yeah. You think you'd ever want to be into politics or anything like that?
I've thought about it recently because, everything that's going on. But
sure.
I'm just not that educated, so I would really have to put a lot of work into it.
Yeah. Well, I would hope that everybody gets into that.
I would hope everyone puts, yeah.
Although some of them I'm not convinced. I mean,
I guess I don't have the drive to be a politician.
Sure.
Because I'm not willing to go the extra mile.
Sure.
That aspect.
I'm not gonna lie though, altruistic people, and I have some sense that you're an altruistic person, should be the ones that run. I'm not trying to convince you. I'm not trying to convince you to get into politics. Right. It just seems like the altruism is what's missing. You see a lot of opportunists.
And the people that are altruistic don't get enough support.
Yeah, but you're right, man. Like one of the and I didn't have an answer either. One of the really tough questions.
It's a tough one.
Is okay, yeah, but who decides what's right?
Yeah, and I guess that comes down to what we agree upon as a country and how we want our government to be set up and run.
Sure. We should establish some kind of voting method where you vote for
sort of voting method. Because that's what the government is.
Yeah.
It's people we put into power that we trust to decide these things.
Sure.
And that's the agreement. We put you in power and then you do what's good.
Yeah.
And then
based on the things you said.
Yeah.
So then when they don't do those things, it's almost like, did you lie?
You probably lied.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a social contract, as I like to say, and I don't think both ends get fulfilled. They take what they want, and then we get left with the scraps, basically.
How do you feel about the divide between the rich and the poor, classism versus racism?
Classism versus racism. Like I said earlier, I don't think there's necessarily should be a wealth cap, but
yeah,
I do think it is absurd. You see the stuff on Facebook all the time about people doing statistics and how you work every day, 12 hours a day for $20 a day, you still won't make enough that
there's one I'm gonna get this
even
wrong.
More, not $20.
Yeah, there's one where and I'll get this wrong, and I'm not a mathematician, so nobody burned me for this one, but it was like if you were alive at Jesus's birth.
Yeah,
made $5,000 a day and didn't spend a single dime, you still wouldn't even be in the top 20 richest people.
You wouldn't have enough as Big Bezos.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's crazy, man.
It's hit a point of absurdity. It can't be real, but it is.
$5,000 a day for 2,000 years. He wouldn't have what those people have.
You know how much I could do with $5,000 now?
Yeah, right. Just one hot check.
I think about that so much. It's wow, if I just got a check for $5,000, I could do so much.
Yeah, and they're you could have one of those every day for 2,000 years, and those people would still have more money than you.
Yeah, they would. And I guess I come from a humble standpoint on this, where I do not have wealth, and I think you guys don't need all that wealth.
Who could possibly?
What could you obviously you do something with it, but
sure,
I couldn't fathom.
I don't think that you do something with all of it. You can't possibly.
You can't.
I don't think that you can possibly do something with all of it.
Yeah.
Especially if that dude becomes the first trillionaire. What are you going to do with $1 trillion?
What are you going to do with it? Buy a big golden yacht?
No, they can already do that. You could probably do that with $1 million.
They already did. Yeah, a golden blimp.
I think at that point it's just he wants to be the first trillionaire. He just wants to be able to say, in all of time and space, I was the first person who did this.
Yeah, shit. It's a goal to shoot for if you're an egomaniac, I suppose.
But that's sociopathic level of egomania. Because,
it's comic book villainry.
Yeah, dude. In fact, I don't think comic book villains have even been that bad.
I don't know.
I think I'd put Lex Luthor over Jeff Bezos.
He's very much the Lex Luthor of the real world.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like if an alien would come to our Earth, he would build a power suit to fight it.
To fight Bezos? And Bezos?
No, Bezos would fight the alien.
Oh, yeah? That's so
They have a big B on it. 2 B's for Big Bezos.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. The wealth disparity is really crazy. I don't believe in wealth caps either, but I think that maybe let's not have such a shit condition for everybody else.
Yeah. It's the American dream. The American dream is so impossible.
It's funny, a friend of mine...
people can do it.
A friend of mine came in to my place of employment the other day. We were talking about this because we always talk politics. He goes, I had a revelation. The American dream is so funny because it's like people come up to you and they say, everyone's going to have a shit time. No one's going to have health care. Your education's going to be shitty. No one's going to have anything that they want. Everyone's going to work constantly, and no one's going to have any time to do whatever they want. But one of you
could. Just imagine.
Just one of you might.
Yeah, and people are like, oh, yeah, this is a good system. We're on board. We're going to protect this.
Yeah, just like,
Die hard.
Did you guys not hear that? One of us might become a millionaire.
When you make fun of billionaires, it makes fun of the chance that I might one day be a billionaire, so that doesn't make me feel happy. No, it's ridiculous. I like the standard to live. The bar is so low, and people are like, "This is good.
Yeah,
we like that." And I'm like, "Why?" Open your eyes, look around you, like, go to a different neighborhood and see what things are like. And
they're just like, "Yeah, but what about Venezuela?"
Well, oh my God.
My response to people when they're just like, "Well, would you rather live in like Ethiopia?" I was just like, I'm not. We should be comparing ourselves to the best country on the planet because we're supposedly the best country on the planet. Right? Well, I'm not trying to compare myself to Venezuela, you know?
Yeah. Not to put Venezuela down. Like,
no, Venezuela's not in a great situation right now.
No, it's not.
There was a lot of corruption in that country. A lot of very blatant corruption in that country.
Never seen that before.
Right. We didn't have any part of that.
Yeah. I don't know. I think we need to be knocked down a peg.
I think we've been knocked down a peg.
Yeah, by ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think someone else needs to slap up Trump a little bit and be like, bad. Bad. Down.
Bad.
I don't know. We need help.
Yeah. Do you have an optimistic feel for what comes next?
What, with the current election?
Or just generally the country generally? Like, do you think that when you and I are in our 60s, we'll be living in a fundamentally better country, or do you think this is the kind of thing that just stays bad?
When I am in my 60s, I would like to be in Canada.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Really?
I don't have a lot of hope for the U.S.
Huh.
It's been so long, and a lot has happened, and it comes to the point where, like, what's the breaking point? Yeah. Like, where are we drawing the line? And it appears that we just keep pushing the line farther and farther back.
They're
just fine with
we
that.
Will not be drawing the line, sir.
Yeah, and people are just fine with that.
Sure.
And we don't have a way to rally and unify and make a difference, make a powerful voice. It's just not there. Like, we have all these different movements, but they're all separate, and we don't come together, and we don't try to actually make real change. I mean, this year we did. This year we've tried, and it's been great. Like, that's a way I've been feeling for many years now, where it's like, okay, well, nothing's happening. This year we're trying something, which is good, and we've made some headway, but we don't have, like, one voice. You know, we don't have someone to rally behind. We don't have a leader.
Do you think that would help?
I think it's shown to have helped in the past.
I can't remember if you were, but did you think Bernie had a better situation?
I was all in for Bernie.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So I, in retrospect, think that there is no way Bernie was going to win for 2016 or 2020. In retrospect, because during 2016 and during 2020, I was very much like hoping to God that Bernie Sanders would win, right? Mm-hmm. But in retrospect, I'm thinking there was no way. The majority of the country doesn't want stuff like that. But and so that's what I'm asking. We had an opportunity to have what you and definitely me would want. Taking care of everybody who needs taken care of, limiting the power of people who want to oppress, making sure that everybody has what they need to have a fucking standard of life. You know, just like taking care of people that generally aren't being taken care of, making sure that everybody has equal representation, equal voice. He was promising all of those things. Mm-hmm. He was that was the platform that he was running on. Yeah. Let's take care of the fucking planet. Let's take care of each other. And people said no thanks. You know?
Well, and it's not entirely their fault. I mean, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work. And the deck was incredibly stacked against Bernie.
Yeah.
And it was stacked by the dealers, you know?
Sure, yeah.
I don't think it's a coincidence that, like, we used to have, I don't know, maybe it was last year, but we had a lot of Democratic people running in this race. And then one person dropped out. And then, wow, look at that. Every other person dropped out in the same week.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden everything became, hey, look at Biden.
Yeah.
Look at Biden. That was everywhere. That was everything. So it's like the population is being swayed in a certain direction. Sure. And they're not told everything that's truthful about, like, if you don't like Bernie, you're not listening to things that are supporting Bernie. And so they're spouting out, like, slanders, lies, and, you know, they're not telling the whole truth.
Sure.
So it's like, yeah, people aren't supporting them because they don't see what's actually going on.
Do you think? Do you talk to a lot of other people about politics? Generally, people don't, and that's actually why I'm doing this. But do you talk to other people?
Not often, no. I mean, sometimes it comes up, but
have you met a lot of other not your generation's Bernie supporters?
not my generation.
Yeah. Have you ever met any older Gen Xer, Boomer Bernie supporters?
Not personally. I went to a rally once, so I'm sure I saw people there.
Yeah, so there must be.
There must be.
Oh yeah.
There must be.
So
But
like
yeah, it's generally in our generation.
it's generally our generation because I've talked to
and younger. Gen X is awesome.
Yeah,
Or
yeah.
Gen Z, I mean.
Gen Z's, yeah. The reason I ask is because I've had a lot of conversations with older people, older Democrats too, and they either didn't know much about Bernie, didn't care much about Bernie, thought that Bernie was just kind of blowing smoke up everybody's asses, saying things that clearly could never happen or would never work.
Yeah.
And like that's what I mean by people who said no thanks. It's not that they didn't want it; they just either didn't care or hear or believe. It's just people were just not into it.
Yeah, we're gonna stick with Joe.
Yeah,
He's I don't know. Bernie's old like you too.
Yeah,
Joe's
right.
old. You could have gone either way, but you picked Creepy Joe.
How do you feel about AOC?
I love AOC.
Yeah.
Oh god, I just saw a Twitter thing where she plays League of Legends.
And you were just like, "Fuck, man,
Well, it's coincidence because
smitten.
I've been playing League lately again. But like,
sure, yeah, I saw that
it was-
recently too."
It was so funny because they're like, "Do you think playing League of Legends has helped you deal with the general masses because you're already in like the cesspit of society?" And she's like, "Yeah, an angry Republican is nothing compared to an inting 13-year-old." And I'm like, "Yeah, we've all been there. Gamer feels."
But as far as our politics,
Oh, yeah,
because
she's
they're
great.
pretty left, like they're in some places further left than Bernie, and she's really getting villainized for it.
Oh yeah, she gets a lot of hate, but no, she kills it.
Yeah.
I love her.
More like her for sure.
More like her.
Yeah.
And she's so standout
Yeah, yeah,
in the crowd,
Yeah,
for
for
obvious
sure.
reasons,
yeah.
And she's like out there, she's actually speaking from a place of morality. She's trying to
It would definitely
help
seem so
people.
for sure.
Yeah, like I don't want to gush about her because I don't know much about her. I don't even know her real name. I know AOC, but
But you don't know her name.
I've seen it.
It's Alexandria
I know Alexandria, but I don't know the rest of it.
Ocasio-Cortez.
Okay,
Yeah.
but that's not personal. I don't know about most politicians.
You don't know my name.
I can't believe you called me out on your own podcast.
Podcast.
Oh no,
I've got one of those long names too, though. So
I've got a long name too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I always just call you by your first name and then your second initial, or the first initial of your last name.
Yeah, I have a long Polish name.
Maybe that's too much. I'm going to bleep that out. I'm going to delete that.
Is the people going to track me down?
No. This has to be anonymous.
Okay, you're right.
All right, man. Well, Hernando, that was your name, was it?
Yes.
Thank you for having this conversation with me, man.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm glad that I got to do this. Your perspectives are surprising. I'm really happy that I got to hear them.
Thanks.
Is there anything that you want to say before we go? What are your final words? What do you want the people at home to walk away thinking?
We should all be kinder to each other.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you for listening, everybody, to the Realtone podcast. I'm happy that you decided to do that.
I'm happy you're happy. It's fun. It's nice to talk about this stuff because really you don't get to very often.
Yeah. I hope more people think like you, too, because I got a couple of people on the docket that are very right-wing. And I hope that I have as a nice a conversation as I just had. All right, everybody, if you want to get more of this content, please like and subscribe. Actually, I don't think you can subscribe. No, you must be able to subscribe.
Mysterious.
Yeah, like and subscribe. I have not said how you can find me on Facebook or on Twitter or on Instagram. I just told you vaguely that you can find me on those things. But that's because I am recording this podcast and I haven't put any content on there yet.
Ooh.
So I'm not even 100% sure what. Like I know that they're active right now. I just don't know what the things are. So expect that in episode 3. That's neither here nor there. Who listened to this?
Is anyone out there?
All right. Have a great night, guys. See you on the next episode. Thanks for listening.